Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a video about how to write your medical personal statement, and this is such a big topic because it can be the make or break between that interview, and I think once you're in the interview you're fine. And even if your medical school doesn't read it or doesn't read as much as they used to, I still think it's really important to put your effort into your personal statement and just get used to really articulating your feelings and all the things that you've done, just to show what a great applicant you'd be. I'm currently a second year medical student, and I have to say I really did enjoy the process of writing my personal statement. You get to really explain who you are, what you've done, and just show all the hard work that you've put towards medicine and why you want to do it. Just to begin, what are medical schools looking for? So before you even write your personal statement, think about where you want to apply, what kind of universities you want to apply to. You can check this on the Medical School Council website, and they have a PDF of every single medical school and how much they use your personal statement. Some medical schools will definitely read your personal statement and ask you specific questions about it in your interview, even MMIs. So in my interview I did have questions about specific things in my personal statement, so definitely prepare for that. And they also have a long list of things to do, so things that you should include in your personal statement. So there's a long list of all things you need to put in, like your motivation and genuine interest in medicine, your strengths and weaknesses, how you reflect on your own work, personal organisation, academic ability, problem solving, dealing with uncertainty, responsibility, conscientiousness, insight into your own health, effective communication, teamwork, respect, resilience, empathy, honesty. So honestly, you can use all of those words as inspiration as you write. Just to really emphasize with your personal statement, some medical schools, say you have a similar Ucas score, you have similar everything on paper, the personal statement could be the thing that tips you towards getting that interview. My overall first piece of advice for your personal statement is to start early, because this is a creative piece of work. Like, as a pre-med student, you're probably doing biology, chemistry, maths, physics, psychology, so you're not really writing as much as you used to. So I think it's good to just kind of draft everything out and kind of get it out of the way so that you can kind of evolve it and let it really flow and be well written in the end. So you don't want to be rushing your personal statement. How do you go about writing it? I think it'd be a good idea to start with a mind map. So just get a big piece of paper and go through all of the things that you've done, write down keywords, thoughts, feelings, anything, and just really get it out of your mind so that it's just there, and then you can use that as you write. Things that I would have on my mind map are preparation, so maybe summer schools you've been to, you can think about how you want to write it. So sometimes people can make a really interesting hook and a really interesting ending, so definitely try that. If you're a mature student or anything like that, you could write about that a little bit and how you're ready to study, because medicine is definitely a long slog, it's lifelong learning, so definitely write about how you're interested in academics and continuing to learn even as a consultant. What is a good personal statement? Focuses on your motivation, so why medicine and what kind of insights have you had and how does it align with your values. Perseverance, now this is a big one. You need to be able to work hard and have the skills to be a doctor. Obviously it's a very long training pathway, so you need to have perseverance and be ready to face the realities of medicine in this country. And interest, so what are your kind of academic interests? Like, are you interested in biology, chemistry, and have you looked into any medical conditions? Have you researched anything like that? So that would be really beneficial. Just to give you an insight on the structure, I mean that instead of having a flowing piece of work, you'll have little paragraphs where you can write in there, so that will be different. But for now it's 4,000 characters, but it must be in 47 lines, so you're gonna have to write it and fit it in 47 lines. It can't be 48 lines, so that's quite something. But it works out around 500 words. But the paragraphs that they would be is motivations for the course, why do you want to study the course, preparedness for the course, how's your learning thus far helped you to be prepared for this course, preparation through other experiences, what else have you done to help yourself prepare, how and why are these experiences so useful. And then there was an optional one which is extenuating circumstances. For still using the old format of personal statements, I'd say this is a good structure to follow. So intro should be about your motivation. Why medicine? It needs to be a snappy thing that catches the reader's attention, because honestly, admissions boards have read probably thousands of personal statements. They are flicking through them. They're probably just seeing big words, they're not even reading them, to be honest. So you really have to put in a punch with the first few lines. try and be eloquent, try and be interesting, and really put a lot of work into it so that you're catching their attention. And then the first kind of paragraphs, I think you should put about your work experience and your volunteering, and just kind of focus on how you really put the effort in, you put the time in, you put the hours in, and what you kind of seen from that, and reflect on it. You can put in your wider reading, so say what you've seen on placement, what you've seen on your shadowing. Definitely research that more, look in the BMJ, write about it and research it so you're ready to be asked questions about it if you need. And then towards the end, you should definitely focus on putting in all those keywords that the Medical Schools Council has put: communication skills, teamwork. Make sure that you know what they want, and just show how you are that person that they want. You are going to be a great medical student and a great doctor eventually. And you want to just put in any extracurricular activities, because obviously medicine is a very stressful course, so we just want to show how you are aware of that and you have something that can make you de-stress. So maybe you've been doing, and the conclusion again needs to link back to the beginning, your motivation to medicine. And again, the doctor and the admissions committee, they're probably reading the top and then scanning through the middle, and then the ends they're reading. So definitely make sure that it's really well flowing, it makes sense, and it's just really nice ending. So I spoke about work experience, but what kind of work experience can you actually write about? The main thing here is to show and not tell. So it's easy to say, I saw this surgery, I saw that surgery, I went for this many weeks, I did this, it was this hospital. That's all well and good, but these days it can be hard to get work experience, to get these work experiences. So it's not about what you saw, but what you took away from it. Don't focus on the amount, but focus on what you saw and what you learned from it. You can apply to clinical shadowing by talking to the hospital's admin. They should have a website where you can apply, but if not, just email the hospital and then you can get through their directory to the secretary of the surgeons or the doctors that you want to shadow. Really get in there and be able to stand in the surgery, stand in all these things. You'll probably have to do some teaching on the hospital, like infection control and things like that before you go, but it's definitely a great opportunity because that's basically what we're doing on placement, especially in the early years. And you'll just really get to see how the multidisciplinary team interacts together. So the main thing that you need to do once you're actually on the work experience is make sure you have a notepad with you and write down anything that you can, anything interesting. So maybe the surgery was like 4 hours and you were like, whoa, that's a long time. You were shadowing like a general surgeon and you saw like a cancer being removed, and then you saw the procedure, you saw how they dealt with the blood pressure going up really high or something like that, and you saw how everyone works together and were synergistic together. So you can really just organize your thoughts in that notebook, because clearly you're going to be there for a long time, so just make sure you don't forget anything that happens. And this is another time to reflect on the characteristics that the Medical Schools Council give you, because as I said before, we need to really show and not tell, because just listing out all the procedures you saw is not really helpful for anyone. We want to see what you learned. Maybe seeing the surgeon so focused for that amount of time really inspired you, and you thought you see yourself doing that because you really focus when you're sewing or when you're doing art, and you see yourself being creative through surgery. And you also see like the analytical acumen while they're looking at the radiological scans or something like that. So really just delve into what you're seeing and not just think, oh, I saw this, so it was cool. But it's like, how did that affect you? How were you inspired from that? Because it's all well and good commenting on others, but how were you interacting with the people? Were you able to communicate with the patients? Were you able to talk to the doctors? Was your confidence increased? Were you inspired by what you saw? And just kind of all of these keywords, these descriptive words that really show your preparedness for medicine, that you yourself, you're more confident, you're able to have a rapport with the patients, a rapport with the nurses, and you're able to be a leader but also part of the teamwork. So all of these keywords that we talk about, you really need to make sure you're honing in on them. We want to make it easy for them and show that you are giving what they want to be reading. So I thought I'd just list out some other types of work experience if you can't get any hospital or GP experience. So health clinics in the community, vaccination centres, care homes. Care homes is a big one because you can be a bit more hands-on even if you're under 18. So if you volunteer, you can play music for them, you can play puzzles with them, you can dance with them, You can play guitar to them and that will link to your extracurriculars. And again, this is kind of linking to Duke of Edinburgh, because Duke of Edinburgh scheme is a great thing because it makes you do exercise, volunteering and the expedition at the end. So the exercise can be used as an extracurricular. Obviously the volunteering is so good for your personal statement, and then you have the expedition at the end, which is amazing, and you get the award at the end. So definitely do Duke of Edinburgh if you have the opportunity with your school. I also wrote NCS because you fundraise. Mine was actually so good. I did it a few years ago now, but we raised over £1,500 for a local healthcare charity, so that was really impressive and we had such a great time organising it. Could volunteer with a play group or a nursery to be around children, because obviously children are a big part of healthcare, and they'll give you that kind of people skills and things that you need to have, especially as a doctor. St John's Ambulance, I wanted to do that so bad but I never did. I think you learn a lot, you get to really be involved with that. Air cadets, food banks and soup kitchens with homeless people. So the reasons to volunteer is not just for your personal statement, but it will really build your confidence, so that you can speak to anyone, be that you won't just be making a difference in your community, but you'll be gaining skills yourself and really growing up. I just wanted to emphasize how everything you do you really want to reflect. So I wrote, write about what you found surprising, inspiring, what you learned, how you felt inspired, how your preconceptions were challenged, how you think a doctor's interaction gave a good patient experience, or how positive examples of leadership inspired you, or how people were great team players. So that is just showing how everything you write, you should really think about it in a really big way. So there are also online work experiences. I think I did one with Bristol or something like that, and they teach you about the structure of the NHS, especially like the GP partners and things like that, which is quite complicated and they can ask you in interviews. So I think it's definitely good to do online courses. So an online course you can do is an MOOC, and they're just little courses you can do that you can be certified in. So it can be first aid or anything like that. And there's also TEDx courses. These are really popular in lockdown, but they're also a great way to show that you've really put the effort in to do a whole course. That being said, to go to the other side, to the more academic side, you can definitely write about books. So I really love a book, especially a memoir, because they're really touching and you really hear from, you know, a doctor's deepest thoughts. Like, especially as a work experience student, the doctor you're shadowing is not really going to tell you their whole life story. But with books you really get an insight onto the real day-to-day life of a surgeon or a doctor. This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay. Obviously now that has a BBC show, so that's really impactful nowadays and I think more people know about it. There's also When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Calinthy, and it's about him as a surgeon going towards the end of his life, and it's just really reflective. There's Do No Harm by Henry Marsh, which is about neurosurgery and obviously how, you know, as a doctor you're trying to help the patient but in a really invasive way, so you can also be harming them at the same time. So obviously we need to be aware of that, because something you do could cause an adverse reaction in a patient, and just kind of dealing with the ethics of that and the everyday reality of having so much responsibility on yourself is a big task. I also had War Doctor, which is about a doctor in war zones, and it's a very hard-hitting book. There's also Dr. Richard Shepard's Unnatural Causes, which is about pathology, and I found this one absolutely crazy because I hadn't really thought about pathology, but just hearing about the UK and like how pathology is handled, it was so interesting and something I never really thought about. And then for a more academic one is The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, and that's by Oliver Sacks, and it's about neurology and things like that. So definitely look up books because it really gives you an insight into medicine and how things are these days, and especially as a sixth form student you're not really aware of how the hospital can be, so just really immerse yourself in the culture of medicine by reading. You can even listen to these books as audiobooks. And that being said, I do love listening to things, so I do love a medical podcast. The first one I have to mention is definitely Sharp Scratch by the BMJ, the student BMJ. I've listened to it for years. They're so fun, but they're definitely like really hard-hitting questions that need to be spoken about it's kind of like the unhidden curriculum for medical students, so I think it's really interesting. For more current topics, you can listen to the Royal Society of Medicine podcast or the New England Journal Medicine, the New England Journal of Medicine's podcast, which is called This Week, and they just go into research and explain them. So you can reference one of these and talk about how you learnt from them. I think the best way to do this is always something you've seen, and then you can research that, or something you're really interested in, or maybe a specialty that you're interested in. Then you can reference how you've looked into it and show your kind of academic interest. So those are what to do if you don't really have any work experience. And another book that I just wanted to end on, which is kind of a different vibe, is The 4 Pillars of Medical Ethics. So there's a very short introduction by Michael Dunn and Tony Hope. So this is just a very, very short, thin book with very concise definitions of medical ethics. Medical ethics is such an important topic to be aware of in your application, because you'll definitely be asked a question about it and how you can apply it, even in role play and things like that. So what are the pillars? So autonomy, which is the patient always having ultimate choice of what happens to them, and it's also with consent. So you need to make sure that you're explaining everything to the patient so that they can say that that's what they want and agree to it while knowing the risks and side effects. There's beneficence, which is thinking what's best for the patient, choosing the best intervention for the patient. There's non-maleficence, which means do no harm. This also includes harm that comes from neglect or non-action. So that's quite an interesting way of thinking about being a doctor and not doing something is as bad as doing something wrong. So then the final one is justice. So it should be fair in society and law, and how we can also share things equally and give the same quality of care for all patients, no matter their economic status. Those are the 4 pillars. Those are the most important. But there's also the 3 C's, which is confidentiality, consent, and capacity. So capacity is just assessing if a patient is able to understand what you're saying and accept it themselves. If you're really wanting to put something academic into your personal statement, you can put and reference an actual journal article. So there's the BMJ, the Lancet, the New England Journal, and Nature. So you can read an article and talk about it if you're really ready. I hope you get your interviews, because once you're in the interview, I'm sorry, you'll be absolutely fine and you will get in. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in my next video.